but there is one thing I'd like to talk about. You see, modernism is actually an act of abortion. Modernism, which Pope Pius X condemned as a synthesis of all heresies, is an attempt to abort the church, to abort the faith, to destroy the faith in young souls. I consider modernism to be not only as evil as abortion, but in many ways, because it's aborting not just human life, it's aborting supernatural life. Modernism is the abortion of the supernatural life, of the soul. I have to consider that to be even worse. And Francis is over there in this synod on synodality now, trying to consummate modernism and create his own church based upon his own modernist religion. He's trying to replace the Catholic Church, abort the Catholic Church, and replace it with his own construct, his own modernist, monstrous idea of about anti-faith. I'm not exaggerating, Tom. I mean, this is what it is. People have to understand the very concept of synodality is an anti-Catholic concept. Francis posited this at the very beginning of his reign as the supreme pontiff of the new order, because that's what he is. He's the Pope of the Novus Ordo. The religion that he's professing, teaching, and so on, that is not the Catholic religion. And the faith that he's proposing is not the Catholic faith. He's proposing modernism as belief and the new order as the religion. And he wants to consummate it in his new church, this synodal church. He was already talking about this back in 2013. So people cannot say, "Oh, look what he's doing now. Oh, how could the Holy Father be doing this?" He told you exactly what he was going to do. And you have to see that he's just fulfilling his word, just carrying it out. Don't be surprised. The atrocity happened back in 2013, not happening now. But we have to understand that the word synod is equivalent to the word like a small council or a lesser meeting, right? And it is equivalent to the Soviet word Soviet. Soviet means a council or a synod. And when the Soviet Union became that under Lenin, okay, Lenin was organizing the governing power of communism, Bolshevism, around the Soviet. So they created these councils or synods of dock workers, steel workers, farmers. They formed these synodal groups. And they would then choose their positions on things, and they would choose a representative to send to the higher synod or the higher council, which was represented all of these lesser synodal groups. And they would form a kind of synod or council above those. And there were just these tiers of synodal councils that led all the way up to the Supreme Council of the Soviet Union, which really became the Communist Party. So this was their idea of representation. And it was a total dictatorship by the Communist Party leadership, obviously. But they had the veneer of having all this input from the workers themselves. So they referred to it as the dictatorship of the proletariat, the workers, because they had these synodal groups formed, like these different unions of different occupations and so on. Francis essentially wants to order his church. He wants his church organized around the Soviet. That's what the synod means. He wants these synodal groups formed in all the parishes and so on, and they will decide what the faith is at the moment that they're experiencing, and how they're living their faith, and how they're experiencing God. Remember, that's the fundamental principle of modernism, that God is who you're experiencing God. And you get together and you share your experience of God, and that is then reported up through the levels of synodality, these councils, until it comes to him. Through his priests, through his bishops, it comes to him, and then he expresses the formula, which actually is the expression of the experiences of all these people and how they are experiencing God now. That's his role as the Supreme Pontiff now, to put it into words, the experience that is reported to him, coming from the grassroots. That is what becomes the faith of the moment, right? And that experience is constantly changing. And because the experience is constantly changing, our understanding of God is constantly changing. And so the formula continually needs to be revised to adequately represent the changing experience of the people. You understand what I'm saying here? Nobody really understands it because it's goofy stuff. You read Pascendi and you think, well, okay, but what does that have to do with the Catholic faith? I mean, how is that divine revelation? How the people are experiencing God at the moment, and that tells us who God is right now, or how we understand God now. And so we have to find the formula to express what these people are experiencing. And that's the faith of the moment. That's who God is for us at the moment. I mean, that's the modernist idea. And to a Catholic, it's totally foreign. It's like totally opposed to what we understand of divine revelation. In other words, to understand it, you'd have to momentarily lapse into the modernist mindset. I'd like to think you're not capable of that. But anyway, we get the point they're making. This is what this synod on synodality is all about. It's adopting that structure of the Soviet in the church and saying this is the church that Christ established. Now, the church of the third millennium. This is the church of modernism. That's what Francis was elected to actually create. And that's what this synod on synodality is all about. When people are over there talking about it, taking it seriously, saying whether they favor it, oppose it, he wants to bring in gradually having people accept the perversion of homosexuality and all the rest that goes with it. He wants to bring in the women priests and deacons, gradually getting them used to the idea. But ultimately, what he wants to get people used to is the idea of synodality, that basically the faith is made manifest, revealed by surveys. And the Pope exists basically to interpret the surveys into a statement of the faith of the moment. That's what he wants to get all these people used to. And those who are taking this seriously, whether they oppose his agenda with LGBTQ or with the women priests or whatever else, or they are in favor of it, the ultimate process is what it's all about, that they're all getting used to the idea that this is the new church and this is how the new church works. And we're all getting to the point where little by little, not we all, you're not, I'm not, but they are, the conservative new order, the conservative new order people, maybe even going to the traditional mass and still have the traditional catechism. But in the fact that they're taking this seriously, that a Catholic Pope is actually putting this through this process, is legitimizing the process in their minds. That this is how the church now is going to proceed. And it's an abomination before God. It's not the Catholic Church. It is the Church of Modernism. It is the Church of Soviets. It is the Soviet Church of Francis, is what it is. That's the structure of this new church. It's not Catholic. It's not what Christ established. It is really the anti-faith of modernism, producing the anti-church. And ultimately, it will be the church of the Antichrist. So I wanted to make that point because Francis is just finishing up this synod on synodality. And I think it needs to end with an exclamation point. And that is, this is not Catholicism. Please don't even think of it. As Catholicism, it is the apotheosis of anti-Catholicism right now.